Marina.
Haven't seen her? Oh, that's sweet. That was nice. So, yeah, I was in Chicago at the time, and I was going into my junior high school. I moved around a lot. We started out, Chicago was very segregated, and I actually started out in the north suburbs of Chicago, which was like an all-white neighborhood. Then we moved to the south side of Chicago, the black part of it, so it was an all-black neighborhood, and it was too late for me. I was white, and then I wasn't supposed to tell jokes, but anyway, then we moved to the south suburbs, which was like mixed economically, just kind of fucked, basically. And it was all this moving, and I was just kind of lost, you know, as a child. Like, I didn't know who I was trying to figure it out. My parents had just gone, well, I was 8 when my parents got a divorce, but it, you know, it took all this moving to kind of deal with it. And I was very, like, crazy, so I would write poetry like nuts. And we were out here, finally we found one spot, and my parents were going through this, like, visitation thing, you know, like, there's no set way of doing it, but my mom would kind of send me to my dad's for the weekend, and sometimes I wouldn't go. But it was like, it was a great period, actually. And then my mom actually kind of got over the marriage. She had moved on, and she had a boyfriend, I guess, kind of, I didn't want to call him my stepfather, but he was Ed, okay? Ed. And Ed was one of these guys who is like always reading like books about success, and it's like, everything's gonna be great, you know, and you're just like, Ed, you're broke. Anyway, so it was this weird transition. I used to write a lot of poetry that was angry. I was kind of like, my mom was up and down bipolar, you know, so I would write all this very emotional poetry, and I thought it was really, I would show it to her, and she would go, don't you have any good stuff? And I was like, okay. Disrespecting my art. Anyway, she wanted to be happy, you know. So there was a point where I guess Ed had all these crazy rules, and I broke one of them. I guess I did something bad. I don't remember being a bad kid, but I guess I did something. I can't quite remember what it was. I was probably a smart ass. And he put me on punishment for a month. Yeah. And during that month, he said that I could not see my father. You know, I had a problem with this since he wasn't my real dad. I had a huge problem with this. Him preventing me to see my dad, who I was just now starting to get to really know on these weekends, these visitations. And on those weekends, by the way, it would be downtown Chicago, which was like huge for like a suburban kid to go downtown Chicago. Because everyone would go, you're going downtown? Ooh, that's like downtown. That was huge. She's doing the downtown, you know. You know, my dad was making lots of money at the time. We would go to the theaters, we would go out to dinner. My dad was cool, you know. My dad was always like, baby, you know. Ah, you know, it was just fun, and he was funny, you know. And then my mom, you know, it was like, So now I was stuck for a month with that, ooh. And I couldn't call my dad. I wasn't even allowed to do that, so I wrote this poem called The 22 Worst Days of My Life. I don't know why it was 22. Maybe I didn't understand how many days in a month was. You know, but, you know, it was just a poetic title, I guess. I don't know. It was 22 worst days of my life, and it was just pages of angst and anger and emotion and just like, you know, I hate my mom, I hate Ed, and it was like, I mean, like a booklet of fury. And when that punishment was over, after about a month, we actually, you know, at my father's house, and guess who brought the 22 worst days with her? I did. and subconsciously, accidentally maybe, kind of left it laying around so someone could find it, my dad. And not only did he find it, he made a bunch of copies of it and he took it to court. Yes. So then that created a thing, you know, it was a legal thing. Now my mom, it was a legal right for my dad to see me every other weekend, every other vacation. That was it. And this caused turmoil, you know, with my family. My mother didn't know how to deal with me. I was still very, you know, I had outbursts of anger and crazy, and I ended up staying at a friend's house because they didn't want me to go to any more different schools and continuing, you know, the moving around. So I stayed in this school for junior high, but I stayed with my friend, Lucretia, and her family, which was very calm. It was a good environment, and it kind of saved me. Now, one of these days, like, we were at school, and we're in homeroom, which is, you know, where you're not doing, like, it's not a specific thing. I don't know, homeroom, you're just sitting there. I don't know if it was like a teacher's break, I don't know. I think back, I'm like, what was homeroom? But it was just dysfunctional, just little meeting of kids, and you're just sitting there. So I was sitting there, I would write my poetry in there, actually, and this one particular day, this girl, her name was Angela, she was the new girl. Beautiful. All the girls hated her. They wanted to fight her, all this. But she was new. She looked like Sheila E. Anyway, she started this fight with my friend Lucretia for no reason. I don't know why, but she just was picking on her, and I was, you know, crazy me, you know, you're picking on my girl who's taking care of me, you know, and I don't think, and well, I thought, you know, she's new, so maybe she's vulnerable, not gonna fight. Wrong. So I stood up with all this, I was like, you leave my friend Lucretia alone, you leave her alone! And, okay, Angela walked over and slapped the shit out of her. This slap was much longer in my mind than it actually happened, you know, like it was a long slap. It was like she walked back like 3 steps, and then forward 3 steps, and then back 2, and then forward, and, you know, whack! Slapped the shit out of me. And I was just standing there, and I didn't hit back. You know, I just was stuck, and I just started sobbing, I started crying, and the homeroom teacher, who was not in the classroom, all of a sudden she runs in and she's like, what's going on? You know, Miss Bird, that's her name. Who, by the way, looked like a bird. She was this black woman, light-skinned, hair like a bird, and very funky breath because she smoked cigarettes, and she pulled me close. I remember this. The class was let out, and I'm standing in the doorway, and I'm crying like endless, just it wouldn't stop, the tears. And she shook me. What are you doing? Don't you ever cry like that. You stop your crying. Stop your crying. You don't ever let anyone slap you. You hear me? You slap them back. Really? So this bird was, you know, all these people, guys, you know, the boys in the hallway were, you know, they're laughing. The girls were like, we're gonna kick her ass, because they still hated her, Angela. And it was weird. It was like, Miss Bird, after that moment, kind of took me on, and it was weird, because, you know, she wasn't the teacher that was cool, you know? You just were like, okay, you know? But she really took me on. Like, she read my poems. She was like, these are good. This is good. She put me in a play where I played a white Goldilocks. And then she wanted me to audition for my graduation. She wanted me to do the speech. So she took one of my poems for graduation, and she worked with me on it. And it was incredible because she taught me, you know, how to pause. Hey, this is where you pause, you know, and she would like write it in red ink, and then she would say to me things like, and now you gotta stress that feel it, really feel, you know, and I was like, I didn't know how to feel the words. I had this one line, like, where I said, you know, goodbye past, hello future, and it was like, goodbye, say goodbye, and I was like, okay, goodbye. No, you know, so she was really on me. So I got it. I got the graduation performance. I was able to do it, and I remember the moment of getting up there, reading my poem, and my mother was there, my father was there, Ed, and I was just saying these things like, you know, goodbye past, hello future. We see the world clearly because now we're mature. Pictures of dreams are soon to be clear. The moment of goodbye have arrived right here. And I felt like I had the audience, like for the first time ever in my life. I've never performed an audience of this size, and I loved it. And this woman, she was like my angel, this bird. And afterwards, my mom was like, you wrote that? This is the first time my mom ever said that to me. My father was like, that was incredible. You know, and I think back to that moment of all of those emotions, and I'm thinking back to that, and if that had never happened, who knows? I may not have been there, where I am right now. But it was the most important time of my life.